Hey guys, it's Coach Tom. Been too long since we last did one of these, but it's May 31st, 2022, and summer's began. So I wanted to cover basically 6 main points going into summer. First off is heat, hydration, sodium intake, and sunscreen. So one thing to keep in mind is timing your runs, slowly getting acclimated to the heat and humidity, picking morning runs, and then slowly working towards later in the day. A little bit later, we'll talk about specificity to the races you're doing. But remember to apply sunscreen in the morning when the skin's dry before you sweat. That way it's got a chance to kind of absorb a little bit, and it gives you a little bit longer protection. If you're doing outdoor swimming in pools like myself and you've got quite the bald head, wearing a swim cap for summer, all of it makes sense, as well as taking care of your back and stuff, and maybe even picking afternoon or evenings when the sun isn't so high. Let's see, definitely want to make sure that you're taking Noon or Scratch or Tailwind, and you're dosing that in your water bottles. You're regularly hydrating before, during, and after, paying attention to what your sweat rate is. Doing those Gatorade sweat strips are fantastic. Setting your Garmin to alert you every 12 minutes to hydrate. Number 2 here is sweat on your bikes from indoor training. If you've been doing a lot of indoor Zwifting and such, a lot of times the sodium from your sweat gets onto those bolts. They can corrode them. You're sitting on the tri bars or the aero bar or the drop bars, and those bolts can get weakened. So make sure that you take those bolts out, you clean them, you put them back in, you torque them right, use Loctite. If you don't know what I'm talking about, make sure that somebody at the bike shop looks at them, make sure that they're serviceable. The last thing we want to be doing is bombing it downhill, and then have the handlebars move or a bolt break. So super important. I've already seen that with one of my athletes having one of the bolts move a little bit, and we needed to replace the risers on a tri setup, and I've seen it on a couple other bikes that I've done maintenance on recently. Summer, things are getting real busy. We'll call this post COVID. Lot more parties and anniversaries and get-togethers, and everybody trying to make up for lost time. So there's an awful lot of additional events going on. Let's try to plan around those. Let's try to have a go bag in your car so that you have an appointment cancel or get some extra time and you can go get a run in or a bike or something, and you've got the right equipment, a swim. Remember, it's really important to not blow off your recovery rides. So a lot of times I have, for you athletes that are runners, but also triathletes, some cycling. It's low intensity. It's meant to be 55% or less than your FTP, anywhere from 30 to 75 minutes. It's just to flush the legs, especially the day after a race. If 75 minutes is in there and it looks too long or it feels too long, 20 minutes is good. I encourage you heavily to run 15 or 20 minutes. You just need some running shoes and some shorts. You don't need anything special. You don't have to have your race gear on. Same thing with biking. You can throw a polo and a pair of shorts, and you can go bike around the neighborhood on a cruiser bike. It's just pedaling, low resistance, constant spinning, or getting downstairs on your Zwift, but going easy. We need this low heart rate exercise to help us recover, but also to continue to make us fat adapted, so that we're able to burn or oxidize fat at a lower heart rate, and move that heart rate higher and higher, so that we can get more out of our performances. So make sure that you're not blowing off those easy workouts, and then you feel like the only time, Tom's giving me only heart rate runs on my long runs or rides. Well, if you're missing the recovery rides, then it makes those all that more important. We can do a little bit more tempo and threshold and stuff like that when you're getting in your recovery rides. So try to get the daily exercise in. It can be short. Something is better than nothing. Don't let time get away from you. We also don't want to push these workouts until 9, 10 at night, where we're compromising sleep. So try to keep those things in mind. Stretching and rolling when your body's warm, after exercise, 4 or 5 minutes of quick stretching and rolling is going to go a long way. So you don't need to spend 30 minutes 4 hours later. You can get about the same benefits in that first 5 or 10 minutes when everything's warmed up, right after you finish a run. So if you have the choice of running right up to the last minute or stopping 5 minutes early and getting your stretching and rolling, I would argue that in 100% of the cases, stopping 4 or 5 minutes early and getting that stretching and rolling in is much better than getting another 5 minutes of running in, or biking or swimming or whatever. Number 5, guys, make comments on Training Peaks. Hit the voice text on your app and just tell me what's going on in your workouts, how you're feeling, if something's nagging you, thoughts, as random as they may be. I'm getting a little bit nervous about the race. I'm not sure if I'm prepared. Gosh, I'm feeling awesome. I'm wondering about X or Y, whatever it is. You've got a coach. Use them. You got to communicate. So squeaky wheel gets the oil. The more you make comments, I might give you a thumbs up. You can have the question and the answer there, and then it's verified. You can just ask me questions. You can make statements. Whatever it is, it gives me context. I know what you're thinking, how you're thinking, and we can kind of put out some fires before they start. So make comments. Tell me about your workouts. Tell me about your questions. Tell me about thoughts. Hey, I'm thinking I'm always fearful of getting a flat, and I don't know how to fix a flat, or I don't know about tubeless. I've been thinking about tubeless. What about your heart rate monitor, or your stride power meter running, or you're wondering about something in your workout, swimming, questions about stretching, nutrition, hydration, whatever it is, you've got to put it in there. Okay, number 6, this is a big one. We're getting to race time for most of you. So specificity is what I'd like to put into your workouts. If you're doing duathlons or triathlons, coming off of a bike, doing it at a similar intensity but shorter duration than your race, and then running on fatigued legs, getting used to what that feels like. Those bricks are important. I won't put them in to sacrifice your overall fitness. So if you're not getting in enough volume, or you're missing workouts, some of you maybe throw in races real quick last minute. We don't have time to do that, but you want to start thinking about the races you're doing and how to train for them. So if it's going to be really hot, riding some of your recovery rides in the heat and getting used to it makes sense. Wearing the race outfits that you're planning on racing in for your long runs, using a wetsuit and making sure that you figure out any chafing issues. making sure that you figure out any chafing issues that you might have. Those are all important things to keep in mind. And so real important tactics, racing tactics. Getting used to riding in a group if you're going to have to ride around a group in a race. Making sure your bike handling skills, working on your transition, practicing T1 and T2 when you come out of the pool, immediately going for a bike for 20 minutes and wearing wet clothes and getting an idea of what that's like and how fast you can change and what works best. You know, those are all super important so that you don't have socks bunched up or you've got the wrong socks. Same thing with bike to run. It's okay to do a 1 mile run after a long bike anytime, and get that feeling of switching over and what that pace is like. You always want to hold back, and you're going to find that you're running faster than you think, but understanding that pacing is super important. So keep those things in mind. Adding extra swims, if they're 20 or 30 minutes and they're easy, is always okay for you triathletes, because I tend to underdose swimming because it's the least important part of the event. We get you to basic level, but if you want to add a little bit of swimming, just don't let it take away from your overall fitness. It does help with breathing. It helps with belly breathing. It helps with posture. It keeps the neck nice and relaxed, especially from being in the time trial position, so we get a lot of movement. It's fantastic to be in the water. Just let's 20 minutes, 30 minutes. You can throw in an extra dose when you want. Getting your workouts done in the morning and getting on with your day means that in the evening and afternoon, a lot of times you can squeeze in another workout if you want. When you put it off till the end of the day, you're typically, either stacking 2 workouts back to back, or it's shortening at the end of the day. So try to get good night's sleep, get up early, get after your workouts, get them in, have them planned, look at the weather. Remember to communicate with me if you need to switch things. We can always move things around. Let's try to make good food choices. Let's not be malnourished by taking in enough calories but not enough nutrients. So make sure you're taking your multivitamins. If you do a huge volume on a weekend, you burn 3,000-4,000 calories, you've done a day's worth of caloric expenditure. So when you take that refueling meal, make sure that you take your multivitamins again. Super important. Don't wait to sleep that night and then the next day you're getting in your nutrients. Over time you can work to depleted source. So if you're eating tons of colored vegetables and fruits and everything, and you don't need the supplements, that's great, but most of us can always benefit from a good multivitamin, making sure we're keeping our vitamin D up, making sure that we're taking in a little bit more magnesium, any of those other things, fish oils, your omegas, stuff like that are super good. So keep those things in mind. The last thing is extra easy rides. If you get your workouts done in the morning, it's okay to get on your bike in regular clothes and just go pedal around the neighborhood. Move some blood. Take an evening walk. Take an evening jog. Super easy, a mile and a half stretch. It's okay to add a little bit of that as long as it's not OCD where you're turning it into races. That low intensity stuff, the movement is all good. So hopefully this is helpful. I'm trying to keep it under 15 minutes, but you don't have to watch me. You can listen, but I've got Lake Michigan in the background, so I thought it was a good opportunity to sit here and give you guys an update. So welcome to summer, and looking forward to some good things happening.